Welcome back to Nerd It. I'm Patrick, and I'm joined, of course, by Lucas.
What's up, guys?
And we are beginning our Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU review. Now, we are going to do a short synopsis here, and you'll hear this a lot throughout this entire series. This synopsis is a little satirical. It's going to have a little bit of fun with it, but it does not substitute for the actual movie. No. So if you, and these are our opinions. So go watch the movie, then come back and watch this video. Put us on pause, go watch the movie, whichever one you want to watch, and you can rank this along with us. Here's how the breakdown goes. We've got the story, the individual story, and how it affects the MCU. We've got characters, main, villain, and side. You may have different characters in some of these categories than us, but we did what we thought was right.
Yep.
Then we go to cinematography and choreography, and finally our overall enjoyment. So you go ahead and you rank those yourself out of 10. Try to be as objective as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
And that's what we tried to do, but some subjectivity definitely seep through, especially in this first one.
Yeah, the main one that is going to be subjective is our overall enjoyment, but everything else we tried to make it like we talked about it and said, here's what we think, how it affects these things overall, not just this is what we think of this character.
Yeah, and like I said, some of that comes from a subjective point of view, whereas some of it is going to come from as objective as we can possibly be. And you are going to hear both of our rankings out of 10 for each individual category.
Yeah.
So without any further delay, and because this is a very long introduction that is going to be a part of all of them, let's go ahead and jump in to the first movie.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
All right, Captain America, the First Avenger. Not gonna lie, this is probably one of my favorite. It is my favorite movie of the Phase 1 movies. It's not Avengers, obviously.
Yeah.
What is and always will be my greatest creation is you.
Avenger's hard to beat.
So I'm going to speak a lot from the heart with this one, but this is so the overview of the story. So we start out with a big ice planet looking thing. It looks like Hoth from Star Wars. It does. And they start digging in a hole, and they see a star in the ice. And a guy goes, call headquarters, and they're like, it's like 5 a.m. I don't care. This guy's waited long enough. And that's like a really ominous start, and you kind of know where the movie's going to end, which is kind of disappointing and can kind of like be a letdown, but they do such a good job with it.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive in now to Steve Rogers. Well, actually, no. It would be Red Skull blowing up a town for the Tesseract. And shoots a guy, like just straight up in cold blood. Like just...
Yeah.
Thanks, boom, you're dead.
Yep.
Blow up the town, don't care. That plays a part later.
Yep.
So then we get to see Steve Rogers reading a newspaper, and we're like, oh, well, it's Chris Evans. No, he's a little scrawny dude. He's built like Chris. Actually, he's shorter than Chris, too.
Yep.
He's built like Chris, but shorter, and that's horrifying. He's got all these health issues. I mean, just looking at the list of it, he had like asthma. I think it said tuberculosis on
Something
it.
like that, yeah.
Like, there was a whole bunch of medical conditions, and the guy fails him. And that was his fourth time trying to get into the army.
Yeah.
Which...
Very illegal.
Yeah, it's still illegal. So he goes to a movie because he's, you know, depressed. And he's in the movie and some guy's being a jerkwad. And he tells him to shut up. Remember, this is a scrawny kid and it's in the 1930s. So this guy takes him out in the back alley and beats the snot out of him. But we get to see we get to hear the first line that is a very long-standing line.
I can do this all day.
And he picks up his shield, except it was a trash can lid. And then Bucky shows up and literally kicks his butt right out of the alley. And we get to see the interaction between Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, which is such a good friendship. And they go to the fair. We get to meet Howard Stark. Howard Stark is, well,
Eccentric.
very Tony.
Yeah.
I love Howard Stark, though. And we really get to see the development of Howard Stark from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, how different he is throughout as he gets old, like, as he starts to know and get to really know Steve.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the big plot points of this whole movie, is that Steve changes everything around him. He never really changes. He's a constant. So Steve, while at this World Fair, decides, I'm going to try and get into the Army again. 5th time, boys, 5th time. So he goes and he gets into an argument with Bucky and, well, the doctor.
Yeah.
I drew a blank, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the doctor overhears it and approves him to be a part of the scientific division. He goes to boot camp. We see that he is physically incapable of menial tasks.
Yeah.
But he's dedicated to the cause. He's working harder than everybody else because he has to. The colonel is like, he's too skinny. He throws a grenade in there and he's like, it takes guts. Chucks this grenade. And everyone bolts. Steve like ducks around it, which wouldn't have saved anybody's life. Because it literally would have just blown him to pieces, and then the shrapnel and his bones would go after people, but he doesn't know that. He's tiny. Like, it's horrifyingly tiny. So we go through so he gets elected to do this. He's offered vodka by the doctor, but then the doctor's like, no, and then he,
Drinks it all.
yeah, which is what I would do.
Yeah.
I can't knock him for that. Then they go the next day. He gets put in this tube. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks like a healing pod from like Dragon Ball Z, except there's no water.
Yeah.
And Steve enters in at 5'4", 95 pounds, soaking wet in an Eskimo suit. And he comes out, he's jacked. He is now, he is now officially Captain America. Like, the dude's, he's jacked.
Yeah.
That is a chiseled piece of man. What?
Nothing was saying anything, bud.
It felt like I was being judged. So Steve comes out of it. The doctor gets shot because have to have some kind of like driving force behind his motives. Literally chases this dude down on foot.
While
in
he's
his
driving.
bare feet in what are those things called that are like half capris?
Yeah.
He's chasing him down in what are now capris. He catches a car on foot. So we see just how fast and physically like capable this dude is now.
He jumps over a 7 or 8 foot fence.
Yeah, just leaps it like bored. He's like, oh, I had feet. I got toes, boys. He swims down a submarine, underwater punches through glass. Not a joke. Chris is behind camera right now, and he's just like, what? I don't think he's seen this movie. Straight up punches through it, pulls the dude out, launches him out of the water, up a wall in New York City on the pier, and then climbs up the ladder himself. And then the dude eats a cyanide pill because he's like, I have no map. And then we hear the first thing of,
Hail Hydra.
spoiler alert, that becomes important later.
Yeah.
Spoiler warnings.
Look, if you haven't watched any of these and you're watching this, you've made a mistake.
Yeah, you gone done messed up, boys. And then the movie takes place. So the next little bit, he's punching out Adolf Hitler. That's not a joke.
A few hundred times.
A couple hundred times. Then he goes and he meets the division where Bucky was assigned, which was addressed earlier.
107th?
I think it's 107th. Yeah. He goes behind enemy lines against orders, which is very no-no.
Yeah.
Breaks into the Hydra facility and breaks out not only Bucky, but a group of people, all the prisoners, but a group of them we get to know pretty well, and I really like them.
Yeah.
I really like them a lot. So we get to meet all of these awesome characters. He sees a map with all the Hydra
bases.
All the Hydra bases, thank you. And like, he only gets a quick look at it, but he memorizes it because one of the things he was known for before was he had a really good memory and he's a very talented artist, which we actually get to see. We are shown, not told, which is great. I love that. That is my favorite thing to be shown, not told.
Yeah.
So they go through and he hires the what would be known as the Howling Commandos, which are a bunch of people that were captured by Hydra and they're just looking to get some revenge.
Sounds rather fun, actually.
I'm in.
And then Bucky is his right hand. So they go and they're taking out Hydra bases, having a good old time. We get to see his shield. He has the uniform from World War II that's beautiful. And they go and destroy bases. And then they find Bucky gets killed on a train, going to the last one, but they get a general location of where the last one is.
Yep.
From Armin Zola. Cap can't get drunk.
Nope.
Physically incapable of getting drunk. And then now they're going in. And so Steve runs in first. And it's very bravado-driven. There is a love story in it too, but I'm not giving everything away. You go watch the movie. And then he jumps on a plane. The colonel says,
Go get him.
I'm not kissing you.
it's a great line.
It's a funny line.
Tommy Lee Jones, you are an actor.
Yeah.
And drives the plane literally into the ground. Red Skull gets yeeted off of a galaxy.
I too sought the stones, but it cast me out.
Galaxy? Galaxy.
Yeah.
You find out where he is.
Solar
Like,
system.
yeah, he
Like he's out of everywhere.
Yeah, he's just yeet. And the movie ends with him crashing into ice, except it doesn't. It ends with him waking up and running through New York City, modern day.
70 years later.
And his only thought was that he had a date.
Yeah.
So that is the story. And the synopsis doesn't make it sound as interesting as it is, but it's...
Watch the movie. Don't listen to us just talk
I'm
about
not... Like, we're not here to tell you the every friggin' scene about the movie. We're here to rank it.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. So I think we're now going to cut to the story section. And let's actually talk about some rankings.
Alright guys, welcome back. Let's talk about that story of it. So overall, we got the individual story and how it affects the MCU. So I think we'll just start with the individual story. How about that? Okay, so with Captain America, the first Avenger, I ranked it as an individual story as a 7 out of 10. It's very good. It tells a great story about how Steve Rogers became Captain America, but it has some drawbacks in it just being a war movie.
They're busting caps like a motherfucker down there.
And while those are good, they do get generic, and it has some of that generic instances. So, like just going into battle and having too many action scenes with not enough explanation can happen with it.
It can. And I do see where you're coming from, but like with a war movie, I think what they did was they turned the trope on its head a little bit, and they only showed the 3 critical battles.
Yeah.
And everything else was just in quick framework, almost like an old-timey movie they were watching.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I thought that they kind of changed the trope a little bit, and they kept it as comic booky as possible, especially with the Tesseract and having lasers in the 1940s.
Yeah.
So for me, I rank the individual story as an 8 out of 10. The other reason that I have for ranking it so high is because they imitated it for a movie in the DCU.
Yes, they did. They really did.
You can't watch Captain America: The First Avenger and then watch Wonder Woman. It's almost literally the same movie.
Yeah, it is.
Just World War I instead of World War II.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that at all. But after that, we got how it affects the MCU overall. So this is more of just us explaining things that happened in this movie. How did they matter in the MCU? Not just Phase 1, but overall for everything we've seen, all 24 movies. For that, I ranked it as a 7 out of 10. It sets up Captain America. It sets up that Bucky's started getting brainwashed. It sets up the Tesseract, and it sent Red Skull away. Some of the negatives for it, it doesn't set up anything beyond one of the Infinity Stones. I wish that they could have set up like explaining what Infinity Stone it was more than it just shooting energy all the time.
But it also, yeah.
Mainly that's all we saw for.
Right, but it also makes sense that nobody would know of it,
Yeah.
like based on where they are.
Yeah. Along with, I wish they could have shown more of Bucky being indoctrinated than what they did. But I understand that it only barely started.
Yeah.
So that would be my only other thing for that. And I wish they had shown that Red Skull got sent somewhere, like if they'd shown Orange when he got sent instead of just the galaxy.
I don't think that at that point they had that planned for him, so probably not. So I ranked it as a 7 out of 10 as well, but there are a couple other things that were also introduced in this movie. The Hydra, the organization, was introduced, which ends up being a pretty prevalent factor, especially moving into the second phase of movies.
Yeah.
So it sets up the next arc, which sets up into the next one. So like, it's the setup for the finale.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. How much intertwining they had. It also showed the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. You really got to meet the core founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a really big thing. And it really did show you got to know the Stark family more than just Tony.
Yeah.
You got to see where he gets a lot of this knowledge and ability that he has. So it really does. It does a lot of good things. But there's so much more I think it could have done
Yeah.
for the universe as a whole.
Especially with being named Captain America the first Avenger, but then it doesn't really show much about that.
Yeah.
If they just named it Captain America, just leave it at that, I think I honestly might have ranked it a little bit higher. It's that it feels like it's trying to set up for the Avengers, but the only part that does that is the very ending.
Is the Tesseract, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all that sets up for the Avengers. However, it does set up everything, a lot of things for
It does set up
the
a lot, yeah.
surrounding universe, which is huge.
Yeah.
So-
But after that, we'll head on to the main characters.
All right, main characters. We're gonna start with, well, you know what? We're just gonna start with the main character himself, Captain Steve Rogers, Captain America himself. Captain America is I love characters like him. He doesn't change a lot because he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
He's the rock that holds so many things together. He tries to be morally correct. He tries to do right by individuals. He tries to do the right thing by people. While groups may not agree with his methodology, he does the right thing for the people that he cares about. He cares more about individuals and individual freedom. And I love the character like that. I think Chris Evans did a fantastic job portraying him. And I had to give Captain Steve Rogers, who is my second favorite comic book superhero. So that's, it's subjective. I gave him a 10 out of 10.
For me, I give him a 9 out of 10. He is very, very, very good in this movie, but seeing on how he acts at just like a few small moments where this movie and future movies just don't fully align on overall freedom and individual freedom, he does support individual freedom more, but then future movies sometimes show, well, overall freedom is also can be more important at certain points. So
Yeah.
because there's slight changes on how he acts between phases 1, 2, and 3, I can't really give him that perfect score, but he is very high up there. He's about as high as most other heroes that I can put on any of the movies.
Yeah, like I said, for me, I had to give him a 10 out of 10 because while those things are minor, because it is minor things, you can see the flashes of it even here.
Yeah.
And we're shown, not told, who he is, and we get to we feel for him. We feel who he is, and like there are characters of a similar light that are designed similarly, but the problem is that you almost don't want to root for them because you're not concerned.
Yeah.
There's a character, I'm going to use an anecdotal thing, but like Superman is a very similar archetypal character to Captain America. The difference being is that you're never worried about Superman's life. But you will always be worried about Captain America because while he is a super soldier and he's superhuman, he's above the parameters of a natural human. The thing is he's still just a dude. If you shoot him, you can kill him.
Yeah.
Very easily with regular methods. Well, at least right now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in later movies. Next up is going to be Bucky, who is such a good character.
He is.
God.
Who the hell is Bucky?
His introduction into the film pretty much just was perfect.
Yeah.
Saving Steve, he is Steve's best friend without question, without hesitation. And he takes care of his buddy, and they take care of each other. He's such a good character, I had to give him an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
There's things to be grown from.
Yeah. I give him an 8 out of 10 mainly, and this is just like because it's entirely because I wish he was in more of the movie. That I don't have a better reason for it. It feels like he's just not in most of it because he isn't, and that's a negative for the movie and him. He would have just made it more interesting seeing Steve have to protect him more often compared to how he used to have to protect Steve.
Getting a little bit more context of it. And we do see that friendship still lives because Bucky sniped. He sniped out someone that had cross eyes on Steve, and he took him out without hesitation.
Yeah.
And you see that friendship that they still protect each other, even though Bucky's like, I don't physically have to defend him as much, like in a fist fight, but like in a battlefield, there's still without question, they know they have each other's back without there's no hesitation on it.
Yeah.
And such a good character. You're right though. The movie would have benefited from having more of Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
The man. And then the last
Agent Carter.
last one is Agent Carter. I feel like she suffers the same problem, whereas if she was in more of the movie and we got to know more of her character, it would have benefited the movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she kind of feels just like a love interest for Steve.
Yeah.
But we do see that there's more to it than just he got abs that I'm gonna like accidentally try to touch.
Yeah.
Like, there's more to it, and I wish we could have seen more of it.
Yeah. So you gave her a 7 out of 10.
I did.
I gave her a 6 out of 10 because, like you said, she wasn't in a lot of the movie, and she falls into a problem I have with a few people where in parts of the movie it feels like she has jealous girlfriend envy.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Oh, she shot him.
Exactly.
That's not a joke.
Like, that is an inherent problem I see with a few different women throughout the MCU. Is like they have jealous girlfriend envy instead of just yelling at the person. They then try to do something insane instead of something that makes sense.
I mean, yeah.
Look, they said it was a prototype and she took the chance.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's kind of over the top, but
Yeah.
honestly, it was still a funny.
It was funny, but
And
like
it showed she had complete control of where she was shooting.
Yes.
Because if you watch where the bullets hit on the shield, it's never a vital spot.
no. But yeah, no,
It was actually pretty impressive.
that's why she's not way lower, but
Yeah.
she's still only like a 6 out of 10 if she was in more of the movie and didn't fall into the jealous girlfriend where she literally tried to kill him right after she saw him kissing someone else when they weren't dating.
Yeah.
Or if they were dating or married and he did that, understandable.
Yeah, no,
They
100%.
weren't dating, they had just started talking about it, and then they see that happen, and then she tries to shoot him. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? He fell into the jealous boyfriend trap too, though.
Yeah.
He did, almost immediately.
Yeah.
Same conversation. So I guess it's time to move on to the villains.
Alright, now on to the villains. So, first of all, main villain, you gotta get him out there at the Red Skull. Sadly, I can't really rank him that high. I only say he gets like a 6 out of 10. Entirely, he feels, instead of like his own character, he feels like Captain Hitler or Captain Hydra. Just everything that Captain America is, but evil, without a reason for that. Like, I understand he's in Germany and he wants to be in charge, but why not show him actually doing something that isn't just evil for evil's sake?
His motives seem very hollow.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, the Nazis had the same mentality. Like, I hope we don't get demonetized for this. Like, we're talking, but like, in realistic approach, like his beliefs are hollow, and the more I'm thinking about it, like, so were theirs, who he was aligned with at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that would be the case, that he would have hollow principles. But it is just, he's almost bland and boring, but his sadistic nature and his unabashed form of dealing with problems, like, oh, this is a problem, I'm gonna kill it. He's very direct.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for a character like that. When you have hollow beliefs, typically you're a coward, and instead he's just like right in the line, like unabashed. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that, which is why I had to give him a 7 out of 10. But he's not amazing. I wouldn't even put him in the top 10 villains.
No.
And Thanos covers half of them because he's so many different characters.
Yeah. He's so many different actors, too.
So many different Thanoses.
Alright, next, the other villain is Dr. Zola. Honestly, Zola is way better than Red Skull, like, by a lot.
It disagrees with me.
I really enjoyed him. I gave him a 9 out of 10. There's just... He does these bad things, but you can tell on his face he's not fully committed to the cause. And with him in the future movies, it makes a difference on how everything shaped up in S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything shaped up in Hydra on why he was the part of it instead of Red Skull being the main part.
Yeah, Zola was fantastic. It showed that he was brilliant. It showed that he was patient. It showed so many character traits in a character that we didn't see a ton of. Mm-hmm. His patience, his intelligence, his ability to adapt quickly under pressure when the status quo changes.
Yeah.
And in the protection of his own life. He is a coward. He is physically unimpressive.
Yeah.
And that's intentional character design because psychologically, he's brilliant.
Yes.
And he is a very dangerous person to deal with because people will buy into what he's selling.
Yeah.
Because he's not just saying it because he's saying it because he believes it. And he believes in control, and he's smart enough and capable enough to get there.
Yeah.
So I gave him a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, he is by far the best villain in the movie. I just wish we got to see him act more than Red Skull, but I understand he needed to be captured to give away Red Skull, because Red Skull is the main villain. I think Red Skull might have been ranked higher, honestly, if we saw more than just in this movie and one other movie.
Yeah.
I think he would have been ranked higher.
I think, or if we had gotten a little bit more history on Red Skull, it would have been, like, because we got a lot of history on, like, characters like Thanos, and we love that character. Ultron, we literally saw his entire character arc. Do we love him? Absolutely, like, not really, but Loki, we didn't get a lot of characterization in his initial movie. We didn't get a lot of history on him, but, well, we got a lot of history.
We got a lot of history on him,
and that's
we
what
got to
made
see how it reacted.
Right, and that's why we love him so much. And this character, we could have actually fallen in love with the character, not necessarily what he stands for.
Yes.
He's not a good person.
No.
He's worse than Loki.
Yeah.
But we didn't get enough of it. And that's why Zola ranks so high for us, is because we love the character. We love how they portrayed the character and how they used the character. Red Skull is just like a means to an end.
Yeah. Alright, with that, we'll move on to our side characters.
It's the side characters. And we're going to start with the Colonel. I absolutely love...
That would be awkward.
anything Tommy Lee Jones does, honestly. The guy's incredible.
He is an amazing
And this
actor.
character that he portrays, oh gosh, he's so good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how he's taking the fight to Red Skull. I love that he's taking the fight to him. He's trusting his characters. He's such a good compartmentalization leader that I think Steve actually learns a lot from him, and that adapts his leadership style.
Yeah.
In the battlefield. But Colonel Phillips, awesome character, 8 out of 10. Really, my only critique is I wish there was so much more of him. It's like the Bucky syndrome all over again. Just give us like 20 more minutes of him.
Yeah, I gave him an 8 out of 10 also. He has funny moments, he has serious moments. The only thing I would say that he needed to do was, once he saw that Steve could start leading people, show him, like, not even for 5 minutes, but show him, like, explaining, here's how you have to lead people on a battlefield. Like, just show him explaining that.
Yeah,
I think that would have been perfect. I think that would have made him a perfect character, but we can see Steve wanting to learn from him, but we never see Steve actually learning how to do combat around him. And that would be my only critique for him.
The only other thing, and there's a way they could have done that and incorporated it without it being overdone. The old-timey movie thing where they showed all the battles they were doing, they could have shown him and Colonel Phillips talking and pointing out things on a map.
Yeah.
And that's all it does, and that implies a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's actually learning stuff from Colonel Phillips. That one scene, if you add that one, like, half-a-minute scene, not even half a minute, that's exaggeration, it's probably like 15 seconds. You add that 15 seconds into that clip show, and he's a 9 or a 10 out of 10 character.
Exactly.
Like, that's all it needs.
Exactly.
He just needed a little bit. He needed a little push. Now the Howling Commandos. Okay, these characters were not in the movie a lot.
No. And that's their biggest flaw.
That's their only flaw.
Yeah.
They have such great characterization. They have such great inter-character rapport. It's like they've been working together for years.
Yeah.
These characters, the actors played these characters like they were the best of friends. Like they knew what the others were thinking without thinking it.
Yeah.
They knew what they were going to do before they did. It was so good. They did such a good job. Every time they were on scene together talking about anything, you could see them making like wisecracks, and it didn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
It felt like old war buddies.
Yeah, it's entirely just the scene where, like, the train part where Bucky died, if the Howling Commandos were on there instead of just on the mountain, would have been better. They would have been seen as better. We saw them in a couple battles running alongside Steve, and them getting in a tank and shooting Hydra people. And them in a bar.
And the bar scene, honestly,
The bar scenes
really
are
helped.
amazing. The bar scenes are amazing.
Yeah, there's 2 bar scenes with the Howling Commandos, and both of them are absolutely perfect. The first one is the introduction to the characters. You want us to go break back into the place we just broke out of? Sounds kind of fun, actually. Like, thank you. This is exactly what I wanted. You just gotta do one thing for me.
Open a tab.
And And the last bar scene of them saluting Captain Rogers because they know that he had to make the ultimate sacrifice to save everyone in America.
Billions. It's not just America. He was targeting the world.
Yeah, to save most people in the world. Like, yes, they know exactly what he had to do, and they fully respected him for that, and it just looked amazing. They were next to perfect. It's just they need to show us a little bit more about them. In which I know that they do that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this is just in this first movie, so that way people don't say that down in the comments.
The last character, I forget what that's.
Howard Stark.
That's right. How did I forget about Howard?
You talked about it so much in the synopsis.
I know. Howard is great.
He is.
He is not... Okay, so he suffers the same problem. He's not in the movie a lot. But every time he's on screen, he steals the scene.
Yeah.
He is amazing. Like, the Commandos couldn't steal the scene because they'd be taking away from the main character. That doesn't make any sense. Colonel Phillips couldn't do this. He couldn't do it for the same reason. Howard Stark wasn't in the same position as them. When he was on screen, he was always the most competent person in there. Whenever it was something that involved him, he was always the most competent person there. So he had to be important, and he stole the show.
He did.
I absolutely loved Howard Stark. 9 out of 10. Great character.
Yeah. 9 out of 10 also for me. Like, he is the most intelligent character we see in the entire movie by a lot. It isn't even by a small amount.
No, it's
the only critique we have for him is that he's not in the movie enough. We wish he was a main character more than a side character, and that's the problem with why he's a 9 out of 10 for side characters, is because he isn't a main character in this movie.
If he was a main character and he kept the same generalization, he'd probably be an 8 or 9 out of 10 main character too.
I would have given him a 10 out of 10 as a main character. His entire problem is that we don't think he's in the movie enough, and with him not being in the movie enough as a side character, if he was just in the movie a little bit more, he would have been a main character that's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real in-between on that, I think, for either of us.
Yeah. No, he's 9 out of 10. He'd be high up in main characters, too, if we got more of him. All right, so next we move on to cinematography and choreography.
All right, and now on to cinematography and choreography. So, for cinematography, I gave it a 9 out of 10. So, every shot looks beautiful. It is excellently shot throughout the entire movie. Everyone's where they need to be. The only problem I have with it is that all the things inside of buildings, just while it makes sense to be fully metallic, it doesn't feel like it makes perfect sense for it being in the 30s or in the 40s. Like, these buildings just seem, even though I know Hydra's highly scientific, even the where America is at that point compared, it feels like we're just so far behind that it doesn't even make sense that we would know what's going on. So, because of how Hydra is built, it winds me out of it just a little bit, but I like it a lot still.
I give the cinematography a 9 out of 10 as well, and I have a couple of things I want to add to it. It's just, like, the clip shows are beautiful. They feel like it's an old clip show.
Yeah.
They're silent. Like, so when they're flipping through the shows, instead of there being music in the background, it's not, all you hear is like the flipping of like an old time camera. That's amazing. The attention to detail of the cinematography of this movie was beautiful.
Yeah.
They did a really good job. It's beautifully shot. When it's out in the wilderness, it feels like you're out in the wilderness. When it's supposed to be green and bright, it's green and bright. When it's supposed to be dark and muggy, like the rain scenes and stuff, it's dark and muggy. And it's gorgeous. So I guess we're going to talk about choreography next.
All right, now for choreography, for me, I ranked it an 8 out of 10. It is still excellent, but the only few critiques I have for it, most of the time with Captain America, a lot of the things he does is run up and punch or run up and throw shield. If he had a few more interesting things, like just grabbing someone by the neck and throwing them on the ground, or picking someone up and throwing them at people, like doing stuff like that to make it a little bit more than just punching or shooting people, might let me rank that a little bit higher.
Yeah, unfortunately for the movie that it is, I kind of agree with you on that. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 as well. It's a war movie, so the fight scenes aren't going to be as intricate as later movies.
Yeah.
But it does show how capable he actually is.
Yeah.
And it's still phenomenal. The choreography for the fights, whilst simplistic, it needed to be simplistic, and it's still aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. It is perfectly simplistic. That's why it's an 8 out of 10. It would be higher if he did a few more extra things to throw in some spice, but for exactly what the movie needed to be, it has that perfect simplicity, but it does get a little stale when you see him do that in multiple action scenes, and that's all he does in multiple action scenes.
Right.
Yeah. But, I mean, I still think the cinematography and choreography were excellent in this movie.
Some of the best in all of the MCU.
Yeah. But now let's just talk about what we thought of the movie and our overall enjoyment of that movie.
And for overall enjoyment, for me, I'm going to rank it as an 8 out of 10. I love this movie. It is my favorite Phase 1 movie. And that's saying a lot because there's some really good ones in there. But this movie in particular has a special place in my heart. It's fantastic. It sets and builds so much moving forward. It's a very all-around great movie. It's super fun. You can watch it alone. You can watch it as part of the cinematic universe. Either way, you're going to have a good time with this movie, in my opinion.
For me, I also ranked it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy it. I wouldn't watch it on my own as much as I would with someone else that really likes it. Like, I watched it with Patrick. We watched this one together, and I loved it watching it with him. But for me, it doesn't have those few impacts like a few of the future movies will, where if I want to sit down and watch a movie, this is one that I want to watch first. But I would definitely, if I want to rewatch it, this is one that I would look forward to.
And we got to start with it, which is nice.
It was very nice to start with. It was a very good, re-dip into the MCU to just start with a great movie.
Yeah, and now we get to move on to the next movie in the franchise.
In chronological order.
So the next one, and you be the judge of whether or not this is a positive or a negative, is Captain Marvel.
Yeah. So keep in mind, watch that movie before you watch our review. We're going to remind you that at the beginning of the Captain Marvel review, but if you watch it before watching our review, you'll have a fresh take on it like we did when we watched it.
All right. And until next time, checking out.